What's going on, guys? Philip at Trade Genius. All right, we have the Bitcoin weekly chart up. So we're going to take a look at the price action. A lot of volatility, which is creating these big wicks on the weekly price bars. So we're going to talk about that, talk about these shaded levels, what that means. We're also going to take a look at our parabolic chart. We'll take a look at our current base of consolidation and see how that's playing out. We'll also take a look at market internals. We're going to take a look at our short exposures, which just had a recent drop, long exposures, and our funding rate at BitMEX. We'll also take a look at the crypto fear and greed indicator. Right now we got a reading of 33. We'll also take a look at the Tether market cap and see what that has in store for future price moves. And we'll also take a look at the yuan devaluation line and see if that's telling us anything on the next move for Bitcoin. So before we dive into this video, I wanted to show you guys something on the 15-minute chart. Even though it's been pretty volatile, you can still kind of wait to see when price dips, gets toward the bottom of the channel, and then a bottom cycle is confirmed with the moneymaker. You can get decent gains. This is like daily stuff, and you only need to take one or two of these trades and start compounding that into a nice trading stack. You know, a 2% move here. This was a 4% move. I mean, you really only need to do that once a day to be a very successful and profitable trader. So this is the moneymaker. You can get this over at our site, tradegenius.co or tradelikeagenius.com. All right, guys, let's dive into this video.
Trade Genius.
All right, guys, first up is the weekly chart. And basically what we've seen, again, these large wicks, that's a sign of volatility. Some people will look at that as a sign of a top. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as probably not being the case right here and now. But anyway, in regards to this price level, though, you've got to keep in mind from the high, recent high market top at the end of 2017 to our most recent bear market low, we are in that fib zone area, and we came up and tagged this 618 area at 13,048, came up in there, penetrated that, and got rejected. And we've had a subsequent move up that was rejected. So we have a lower high, which is good for the bears. And I think that we really aren't going to see much progress until we get over this 618. There will be some resistance up in this near this 15,000 level, which we'll talk about in a bit due to a fib extension up there. But I think ultimately, if we start clearing that level, what's going to happen is the market's going to see another weekly level looking to be taken out, and that's going to be this one near 17,000. All these other weekly levels have been hit. If we look at the technicals on this, the RSI is actually showing us a hidden divergence. That means when we're making higher highs and the RSI is only basically making the same high, that's a hidden divergence as opposed to a lower high. So this weekly close will be interesting to see if it does close higher. And again, on the RSI divergences, I look at the close because that's what the RSI is measuring. It's not measuring the highs, it's measuring the closes. So that's what I'm looking at as higher closes. It'll be interesting to see how this weekend finishes off. If this catches a bid and moves up and RSI makes another higher high, then there is no bearish divergence on the weekly, which is pretty strong. We have yet to tag any of these lower moving averages yet, which you usually do see. So the trend is very strong. We'll take a look at the moving averages on the daily. In fact, why don't we switch to a daily now? So the daily, again, the faster moving average is basically the strength of your trend, and that's been getting tagged. We have not seen a touch of the slower moving averages currently down here at 10,128, although it did try to attempt to make a move toward it here on this bottom. But again, we are kind of sagging, and this faster moving average line is starting to flatten out. So again, plays into the consolidation. You actually do see this during these consolidation bases of the parabolic structure, which we'll get into in the next chart. But on the daily, just something to be aware of is the ranges that we're dealing with. So we have this range here from the most recent low down here at 74.27, the most recent major low, up to this high of 13,868. Okay, we came down, we tagged the 618 level at 9,900, and then we subsequently bounced. The extension for this move is going to be up here at 15,383, almost 15,400. So again, I think that will be an area where if we break out over this 13,500 area, which is that 618 level for this bearish fib zone from the entire high to low move of this last year, then we're going to probably see a little bit of a pause there. But I think ultimately, again, that's going to bring on that run to 17 if we get up in these levels. So we've got two areas of fib zones that are long against one area of fib zone that were short, the short fib zone from the most recent high here of 13,868 to the most recent low of $9,651. We actually came back up into that. Normally when price breaks this 0.705 in my book, usually that will violate that bearish fib zone, but we didn't get a close outside of it. We spiked above it and then rejected. and that's a swing failure. So this is actually very bearish. And the downside fib target for this down move, okay, so we moved down, pushed back up into the range, and currently are rejecting down. This actually has a low of 8,655 for you bears. So that actually is still in play until I see a close above 12,624 on the daily. So that's how the daily's shaping up. We are in this bit of consolidation, which we're going to get into next, and I think that's going to continue a bit here. Ultimately, I think this goes higher, as you'll see in the video why we probably have the clues to make that happen. All right, let's take a look at the parabolic chart. So the parabolic chart, we're firmly in base 4. Now we did have this pullback, but that's actually been par for the course when we're basing. So if you look back at, say, base 2, for example, we had this dump and then consolidation. Base 3, we had a dump and then consolidation. So we'd be looking for a bit of consolidation here before our final move up. Also, these bases have basically, you can split them up into 3 phases. You have phase 1 here, which is kind of like this move, first rise and fall. Then you have a second rise and fall would be phase 2 into consolidation, and then the final move out, which is phase 3. Similar thing here on base number 3. You have that initial rise, phase 1, phase 2, and then your consolidation and rise out of there on phase 3. And so now that brings us to base 4. We've had that initial surge, base 1. This is basically base 2, and then base 3 is going to end up starting now, and then a chop into a rise is what we should expect there. So the next move will either be a full-on parabolic thrust into this 3.4 area, which has historically been the top marker for these types of moves, or we get a 5th base of consolidation, which is uncommon but not unheard of, and then that would probably happen somewhere in this level up here, in this near that 17,000 weekly top and below. So say 15,000 to 17,000, and that would be a short basing and then a final move. And then, so if that happens, what we'll do is we'll have to actually measure up from there for the 3.14 there and see where that takes us. So right now, par for the course as far as the parabolic structure goes. Nothing's changed there. Still bullish. All right, let's take a look at the internals. Market internals, we have our long exposures are still starting to build. We did have a drop in the short exposure. Now notice when we talk about that, when we have these drops in the short exposure, you're going to see market weakness. This is cut off here, but this was another decent drop on the short exposure, and you'll notice there was some subsequent weakness there. If we look at it again over here, market drop, subsequent weakness. So we don't want to take these lightly. Here was another drop. We've so far had one decent thrust down, although a decent recovery, but I don't know that this is done yet. And we'll talk about those levels a little bit more. I think there's going to be an attempt to take out some of these lows that are still untested down lower a little bit. As far as the funding rate goes on BitMEX, okay, this is pretty flat. Flat bodes more for a chopping environment. Again, when the funding rate has been spiking up, it's been acting like fuel for an up move, even though that means that side of the trade is crowded. Obviously, that has been proving to be correct, though, and it has been acting as fuel for these up moves. All right, let's take a look at the crypto fear and greed indicator. So right now we have a reading of 33. That's a decent dip down. If we look at the actual graph, you'll see that yeah, we've had a big spike down. Normally, those are heading toward Bitcoin bottoms. Now, we still are trying to, as we saw with the spike up here at 95, we're still trying to establish what are the thresholds for the high and lows for a bullish environment, because this graph has not been in existence for any kind of bull market except for recently. So all we've had are high-low readings during a bear market, and now we're getting those for a bull market. South of 30, though, is actually where you want to be paying attention to that level, because that's been an actionable range. So if this thing dips below 20, then I would be looking at, an imminent move higher. So we'll keep an eye on that, but this is telling us that we're probably going to bounce soon. All right, let's take a look at the tether cap. All right, so tether cap is still going strong. There's still money flowing into tethers. Tethers basically acts like fuel. It's not an immediate effect, but it basically what you're seeing is money in the queue waiting to go to work. And so this was our last area of consolidation, and even so we've seen this similar move here, right, that we've just seen here, but what happened the whole time? Tether just kept making higher highs, and we still see that. So there's your bullish case for this thing to come out of this consolidation and go higher. Unless we see Tether take a big dump, this is saying all systems are go for this next surge higher, which plays out per our parabolic chart. So this looks very bullish as well. All right, now let's take a look at how the yuan is performing against Bitcoin. Okay, so this is a 2-hour chart of Bitcoin, guys, with the yuan dollar cross laid out over it. So if it's going up, the yuan's being devalued, and that's bullish for Bitcoin. So the line is like a leading indicator. As we came down to this last low that we made here at 96.51, you'll notice that the yuan actually started rising first and leading this move out of this low higher. Then it topped out here and pulled back, and then Bitcoin subsequently did a lagging move lower. Okay, then it started to bounce into the weekend. These flat lines are the weekends, and then Bitcoin actually caught back up to that in percentage terms. And then as we got up to this most recent high here of 13,200, the yuan started to go down, and then it had a big drop here, literally about 4 hours before the sell-off from that top. And so it's interesting to see how the yuan valuation is actually leading the Bitcoin moves. Now we've had, again, a little divergence here as it was moving up and Bitcoin was making lower lows, and then it subsequently put a bottom in and has moved up. But now we're starting to get that move back down again. So we need to keep an eye on that. We are heading into the weekend, so we will get a flat line like this, and then it's going to decouple. The way things are shaping up with the internals and things like that, don't be surprised if we get kind of a choppy weekend of sideways action just based on what we're seeing right now. But I think the one thing to keep an eye on are these lows, these untested lows back here. You know, this market is getting more sophisticated. Don't be surprised if the market makers try to push this down one more time and we see these levels get tagged. And there's going to be stops here from people that are long. And actually, if you're not long here, which we are not currently, we're flat, we'd be looking probably at, it would make sense to put some bids in at this level, and this gets tagged, this liquidity gets tapped into, and then you just see a move like this where it's a quick dip and then bounce up. So keep an eye on that level, guys, for the upcoming days. All right, guys, well, that's it for this video on Bitcoin. Again, I think this recent pullback, these are large volatile moves, but it is well within the structure of the parabolic chart that's actually to be expected because we've seen this in the last 2 consolidation periods. And so now we'd look for that chop and then rise higher. So look for that. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Appreciate you guys watching. Please hit like and subscribe. That helps out our channel a bunch. Again, if you're interested in our moneymaker indicator, head over to tradelikeagenius.co. Check out what we have over there. And I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Trade Genius.